Garth Brooks ruled country music for decades. He sold more than 100 million albums and broke almost every record the genre had. But in September 2024, something happened that changed how people looked at him. A lawsuit was filed using fake names, which immediately raised questions. Soon after, shocking counter-accusations appeared and shook Nashville. Big TV shows quietly stopped inviting him. Appearances were canceled without explanations. The man who once sang about having friends in low places suddenly seemed to have very few friends left. People started wondering what really happened behind closed doors. This was no longer just about music. The situation felt darker and more serious than anyone expected. He was born on February 7, 1962, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. His birth name was Troy G. Brooks. He was the youngest of 6 children in a home that was already full before he arrived. It was a loud, crowded, blended family living on 81st Street. His father worked as a draftsman in the oil business, while his mother, Colleen Carroll, had once chased her own dream of being a country singer. 4 of the children, Jim, Jerry, Mike, and Betsy, were from her previous marriage. Only Kelly was his full brother. Life in that house was not calm or polished like families on television. Money was tight, space was limited, and dreams had to fight to survive. The family did not have many luxuries, so they created their own entertainment. Every week they held backyard talent shows. These were not done to impress anyone. They were simply a way to pass time and feel joy. Music was always present, but it had not yet turned into a career. When Garth was 5, the family moved from Tulsa to Yukon, Oklahoma. The music moved with them. It was already part of their blood. Colleen had signed with Capitol Records back in the 1950s and had even appeared on the Ozark Jubilee. Her song Pinball Fever gained some attention in 1956, but the industry did not know what to do with a married woman raising 6 children. Her voice was strong and sweet, but that was not enough. Capitol never truly supported her career, and eventually she stepped away from the spotlight. She kept the music alive at home, though, and Garth watched her give up her dream. That moment stayed with him. Years later, when Colleen died from throat cancer on August 6, 1999, at the age of 70, Garth released the song It's Your Song in her honor. The song broke records by having the highest debut in country chart history. Long before that success, though, Garth's relationship with music began quietly. When he was about 7 years old, he was found sitting in a closet holding his mother's old guitar. That was how it started. Not on a stage, not with applause, but alone and hidden. While his family put on backyard Elvis-style shows using brooms as microphones, he slipped away to play in secret. Colleen noticed his talent early. She taught him how to play guitar and later the banjo. She knew the music industry could be harsh because it had already crushed her own hopes. She worried it would do the same to her son. But music had already taken hold of him and would not let go. Their small yellow house slowly turned into a gathering place where neighborhood kids came over to perform. It was not glamorous. It was simply a way to cope and survive. In high school at Yukon, Garth put the guitar aside and focused on football. He became a defensive lineman and played with intensity. His strength and aggressive style earned him the nickname Troy the Destroyer. On the field, he released all his anger and energy. But everything changed after he suffered a serious concussion. His football career ended suddenly. His coach later asked him to give up his quarterback position so a younger player could develop. Garth did not argue or fight it. He stepped aside quietly. Something inside him shifted. He returned to music and began singing songs like James Taylor's Fire and Rain in small bars. The anger that once fueled his football playing found a softer place in music. When he was 16, his family went through another major change. His parents divorced in 1978 after years of arguments, financial stress, and his father's struggle with alcoholism. Drinking had been a silent problem in the house for a long time. After the divorce, Garth worked constantly, delivering newspapers and reading water meters to help his mother keep the family together. Colleen, once a Capitol Records artist, was now a single mother with 6 children and declining health. Garth saw her struggle every day. He carried those experiences with him, and later his songs sounded like they were written by someone far older than he was. In 1980, he received a partial track scholarship to Oklahoma State University in Stillwater. He was about 6 feet 1 inch tall, weighed around 180 pounds, and threw the javelin with determination, as if he was trying to escape his past. His brother Kelly was already there on a similar scholarship. Garth first studied advertising, then switched to marketing. He joined the fraternity Phi Delta Theta to find structure in his life. At night, he worked as a bouncer at the newly opened Tumbleweed Ballroom, a dusty place surrounded by cowboy boots and country music. That job changed his life. One night, he met Sandy Mal. She had just punched a hole in a bathroom wall during an argument. As he escorted her out, he asked for her phone number. That moment marked the beginning of their relationship. In the spring of 1981, Garth drove to Nashville with his roommate Ty England. They carried a demo tape that included the song Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old. They handed it out to anyone who would listen and begged for a chance. Nothing came of it. One executive even laughed at him. He returned to Oklahoma feeling crushed, but he did not throw the tape away. He kept it, believing its time would come. By 1983, he changed majors again as his family struggled financially. Everyone worked hard, but it was never enough. Garth worked, studied, played music, and pushed forward. There were rumors of shoplifting, but nothing was ever proven. What mattered was that he refused to quit. He graduated in May 1984 with a degree in advertising. He and Sandy married on May 24, 1986, at the ages of 24 and 21. Their married life was not easy. They lived in a rundown trailer. Garth worked as a bartender while Sandy held down a job. He played music at small places like Willie's Saloon, where beer cost 25 cents and sometimes only a dozen people showed up. That was where they wrote "I've Got a Good Thing Going." Slowly, things started to make sense. He practiced late into the night, listening to Bob Seger bootlegs. Songs like Night Moves inspired him. He began blending rock and country in a way that felt new. Those small shows became testing grounds. He experimented with covers, changed arrangements, and watched how people reacted. He did not just want to sing. He wanted people to feel something. That mix of folk, rock, and country would later change the genre forever. In 1985, he returned to Nashville with only $200 and big dreams. He expected a warm country welcome. Instead, he found business suits and cold silence. He stayed less than a day before driving back home. He realized he was not ready yet. So he focused on building his band, improving his sound, and waiting. In 1987, Capitol Records told him he sounded too pop and not country enough. They dropped him. To survive, he bussed tables and worked in a boot shop. He even used pay phones to call strangers, pretending to be someone else, asking if they liked his music. Sandy became a pharmaceutical sales rep to help cover their small rent. It was embarrassing, but they survived. Then came the Thunder Rolls. He wrote it in 1988 after a terrifying car accident with Sandy. The original song included a verse where a wife shoots her abusive husband. Radio stations refused to play it. When the music video was released in 1991, Garth played the abusive character himself. Country music channels banned it almost immediately, calling it too violent. He refused to read a warning message on air, saying they could add one themselves if they wanted. The video disappeared, but the song did not. Everything changed one night at the Bluebird Cafe in 1988. Garth performed If Tomorrow Never Comes, a song inspired by his father. A Capitol Records executive named Lynn Schultz was in the audience. She offered him a record deal that same night. The label that once rejected both him and his mother now wanted him. His debut album was released on April 12, 1989. At first, fewer than 20,000 copies were shipped. The single Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old slowly climbed the charts and peaked at number 8. The album took more than a year to reach number 2, held back only by his own second album. The album eventually sold over 10 million copies and produced 2 number 1 hits, If Tomorrow Never Comes and The Dance. The Dance won the 1991 ACM Song of the Year. At first, almost no one noticed his debut. But week by week, it climbed quietly. He moved differently on stage. He performed with energy and emotion. That spark turned into a wildfire. Then came No Fences in August 1990. It stayed at number 1 for 23 weeks and produced massive hits like Friends and Low Places, Unanswered Prayers, and The Thunder Rolls. By the end, it had sold more than 18 million copies and made him the biggest star in country music. In 1991 alone, he won 6 major awards. His sound was built not in luxury studios, but in a small Nashville space called Jack's Tracks, where he created something bigger than anyone imagined. They recorded their music using old-school methods instead of modern digital tools. They relied on analog tape, vintage mixing boards, tube equipment, and even a real echo chamber. The sound was warm and slightly imperfect, which made it feel human and alive. Garth's band, later known as the G-Men, practiced and recorded in that studio for years. The place meant so much to him that in 2010 he bought it and renamed it Allentown. It was not just a workspace, it was personal history. The music video for The Dance added even more meaning to the song. It was directed by John Lloyd Miller and did not use professional actors. Instead, the people in the video were real fans, chosen from an open casting call at a mall in Tulsa. The emotions felt genuine because they were. Garth almost decided not to release the video because he felt it revealed too much of himself. In the end, it became a major turning point. The video won CMA Video of the Year in 1990 and ACM Video of the Year in 1991. It showed that country music could tell powerful stories through visuals, not just lyrics. In 1989, Garth opened concerts for Kenny Rogers. Just 2 years later, by 1991, he was selling out huge arenas on his own. His first major tour supporting Rope in the Wind began on February 1, 1991, and continued until December 12, 1992. His concerts were intense and full of movement. He ran across the stage, climbed ropes, and used pyrotechnics. The shows felt more like rock concerts than traditional country performances. That level of energy took a toll on his body. His voice began to suffer, and vocal nodes formed on his throat. Doctors recommended surgery, but he kept performing. He went through about 50 shows relying on throat lozenges just to get through each night. His Dallas concerts in September 1991 were filmed and aired on NBC as a television special called This Is Garth Brooks. It introduced viewers to a new kind of country artist, someone who moved with the intensity of a rock star and drew crowds like no one before him. On September 10, 1991, Rope in the Wind debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Top 200 chart. This was the first time a country album had ever entered the chart at the top spot. Within 3 months, it sold 4 million copies. By 1998, sales had reached 14 million. One of the album's biggest surprises was the song Shameless. Garth discovered it by accident when he received Billy Joel's Stormfront CD through a mail-order club he had forgotten to cancel. He loved the song and decided to record it. It became his 7th number 1 hit. Billy Joel had originally written Shameless while trying to sound like Jimi Hendrix, but Garth turned it into a country anthem. At the 1991 CMA Awards, Garth accepted the Entertainer of the Year award wearing a black leather jacket. During his speech, he thanked Bruce Springsteen instead of country legends like George Jones or Merle Haggard. Many traditional country fans did not like that. They accused him of turning country music into pop. What the cameras did not show was Garth backstage, sick with nerves and throwing up. He had done the same thing back in his bar performing days, and even at the height of fame, that anxiety never left him. Rope in the Wind produced 4 number 1 singles. What She's Doing Now stayed at the top of the charts for 4 weeks in December 1991. He had written that song in just 10 minutes during a snowstorm. While his public success was obvious, he was also doing something secretly behind the scenes. He personally called more than 100 radio DJs, pretending to be an ordinary listener. He would ask their opinions about song lyrics and ideas. This helped him decide which songs would become singles before they were released. The album stayed at number 1 on the Billboard chart for 18 weeks. In 1992 alone, it sold another 4 million copies. That same year, Garth became the first artist in history to have 2 country albums certified diamond. But charts and awards were not everything to him. In 1992, after a concert in Denver, he met a terminally ill child backstage. The meeting deeply affected him. He quietly donated $1 million from his tour earnings to help children in need, without telling the public. From that moment on, he continued helping hospitals, charities, and children's programs in secret. By 1995, people began to notice. In 1999, his charity work became official with the creation of the Teammates for Kids Foundation, supported by 67 Major League Baseball players. Garth insisted that 100% of all donations go directly to children. All operating costs were paid by board members. By 2024, the foundation had donated more than $100 million across all 50 U.S. states, 10 Canadian provinces, and over 60 countries worldwide. In 1992, Coors Beer offered Garth $5 million to endorse their brand. He refused. A fan had died in a drunk driving accident, and he did not want to be connected to alcohol promotion. His record label was angry because other artists were accepting similar deals. Garth stood firm. Years later, the issue still followed him, including in 2023 when he insisted on selling all beer brands equally at his Nashville bar. The debate around alcohol and his values never fully went away. That same year, he released the album The Chase. On its first day, it sold more than 403,000 copies and immediately went to number 1. However, the lead single, We Shall Be Free, caused controversy. Inspired by the 1992 Los Angeles riots, the song focused on themes of love, equality, and freedom. Some country radio stations refused to play it. NBC did not want to air its video during the 1993 Super Bowl. Garth refused to sing the national anthem unless the video was shown. NBC eventually agreed. The song only reached number 12 on the country charts, but it won a 1993 GLAAD Media Award and even appeared on Christian music charts. In 1993, he released the album In Pieces. It also debuted at number 1. The first single, Ain't Goin' Down, Till the Sun Comes Up, was written on a porch in Nashville and ran over 4.5 minutes, making it one of his longest radio songs. Garth co-wrote 8 of the 10 tracks, making it his most personal album so far. Trisha Yearwood provided background vocals, adding another emotional layer. During the filming of the video for The Red Strokes, something nearly went wrong. The video used a hydraulic piano that slowly lowered him into red paint. The paint was much colder than expected, around 40 degrees. The piano malfunctioned and became stuck, trapping him inside. He began to panic, hyperventilate, and truly believed he might die there. The crew eventually fixed the problem, warmed the paint, and finished filming. The video later won the 1994 ACM Music Video of the Year. In 1995, Garth released Fresh Horses. It debuted at number 1 but did not reach diamond status. Sales slowed at 8 times platinum. The song The Fever, a cover originally by Aerosmith, failed to break into the top 20 and peaked at number 23. Garth was deeply disappointed. Even though the album included successful songs like The Beaches of Cheyenne and She's Every Woman, he felt like he was losing momentum. He openly talked about retiring. Around the same time, he fired his longtime manager Bob Doyle. They had built his career together from the beginning, but arguments over money and touring plans caused a painful split. Doyle's company had helped write and manage many of Garth's biggest hits. Although they eventually repaired their relationship, the damage from the breakup lingered. Not long after, Garth walked into the 1994 ACM Awards carrying the weight of success, pressure, and growing doubts about where his career and life were heading next. Brooks won Entertainer of the Year for the 4th year in a row. When he stepped on stage to accept the award, he surprised everyone by calling out country radio for not playing enough music by women, especially artists like Trisha Yearwood. The room immediately felt uncomfortable. Many people in the industry did not like being publicly criticized. After that night, some radio stations quietly pushed back. They stopped playing a few of his songs as often, and some were almost ignored completely. One of the first songs to suffer was The Fever. Years later, Brooks said he never regretted speaking up. In fact, in 2020, he asked to be removed from future Entertainer of the Year nominations because he believed it was time for other artists to be recognized. On November 25, 1997, Garth Brooks released an album called Sevens. It exploded immediately. In its first week alone, it sold nearly 900,000 copies, making it the biggest album debut of that year. The lead single, Long Neck Bottle, shot straight to number 1 and stayed there for 3 weeks starting December 20th. He co-wrote the song with Steve Wariner and Rick Carnes. There is a story that he wrote it in just 20 minutes after a bar fight in Tulsa, where he reportedly broke a bottle over someone's head, yet still described the song as non-violent. Steve Wariner played guitar and sang backup vocals, and the song had a loose, rough feel that critics enjoyed. After feeling disappointed by his previous album's performance, Sevens gave Garth his confidence back. The album eventually sold more than 10 million copies and earned diamond status. It did not go far beyond that milestone, but he was still clearly on top of the music world. Then things took a very strange turn. In 1999, Garth Brooks became someone else entirely. He introduced the world to Chris Gaines, a fictional rock star with a troubled past. The album was called Garth Brooks and the Life of Chris Gaines and was meant to promote a movie that never got made. Garth created a detailed backstory for this character. Chris Gaines was supposedly born in Australia in 1967, moved to the United States as a child, started a band in high school, survived a near-fatal car accident, had facial surgery, and struggled with addiction. Garth believed in the character so deeply that he performed in Los Angeles clubs disguised as Chris Gaines just to see how people would react. Some fans did not recognize him and even threw beer at him, thinking he was just a bad Garth Brooks impersonator. He claimed that Chris Gaines's album Straight Jacket spent 224 weeks on the Billboard 200 chart, but in reality, the album sold about 2 million copies. It reached number 2 on the charts but only after heavy discounts. The entire project became widely mocked. When Garth hosted Saturday Night Live, he appeared both as himself and as Chris Gaines. Backstage, comedian Tracy Morgan insulted the character, calling him strange and making jokes about Garth's weight. What Garth hoped would be seen as deep and artistic instead turned into one of the most ridiculed identity experiments in music history. Later, Garth said the idea came from therapy. He felt trapped in one box and wanted freedom to explore other sides of himself. But that freedom came at a heavy price. His career began to wobble and his personal life was falling apart. Garth had married Sandy Mal in 1986. They were together for 15 years, but his career kept him away from home more than 200 days a year. Sometimes he would be gone for 8 to 10 weeks straight. When he did come home, life was still chaotic with parties, awards, tours, and constant attention. They separated in March 1999, filed for divorce on November 6, 2000, and finalized it on December 17, 2001. Sandy received $125 million, making it one of the most expensive divorces in country music history. They tried therapy and even used lyrics from the dance to communicate their feelings, but the distance between them was too great. At the same time, Garth's touring success was massive. Between 1996 and 1998, more than 5.3 million people attended his shows. The tour included 220 performances and brought in over $15 million. He broke attendance records previously held by Elvis Presley and the Grateful Dead. But even during these highs, cracks appeared. During a show at Croke Park in Dublin, he lost his voice due to acid reflux and secretly lip-synced one song to protect his voice for the rest of the tour. He did not tell anyone at the time. He only admitted it years later in a fan question session in 2010. For someone who valued honesty and authenticity so deeply, it felt like a personal failure. On October 26, 2000, Garth stood on stage at the Gaylord Entertainment Center in Nashville and announced that he was retiring. He had reached 100 million album sales, completed massive tours, and decided he wanted to focus on raising his 3 daughters, Taylor, August, and Allie. Just 2 weeks later, he officially filed for divorce. For the next 14 years, he and Sandy met every morning and evening to exchange custody so their daughters could see both parents every day. Many people believed Garth was gone from music for good. But life surprised everyone again. In 2005, he married Trisha Yearwood. The wedding took place at their home near Owasso, Oklahoma, with only 77 guests. Trisha wore a ruby red beaded gown and later changed into a white dress with a fur-trimmed bolero. Garth wore a tuxedo with a cowboy hat. They had first sung together back in 1991. He later said that meeting her felt strange, like meeting his wife, even though he was still married to someone else at the time. Their connection was deep and genuine, but even that strong bond could not shield him from future challenges. In 2014, Garth tried another bold move. He launched a digital music service called Ghost Tunes. It was meant to compete with platforms like iTunes, offering artists 80% of profits instead of the usual 70%. His new album Man Against Machine was released there first. However, the platform failed to gain traction. Fans stayed loyal to Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. In 2016, Garth gave up and signed a deal with Amazon Music. Ghost Tunes officially shut down on March 3, 2017. Despite setbacks, he kept touring. From 2014 to 2017, his world tour included 390 shows and sold more than 6.3 million tickets. But problems followed him everywhere. Shows in Tampa were canceled due to the Stanley Cup Finals. In Baltimore, a blizzard forced rescheduling. In Orlando, Hurricane Matthew disrupted dates. Ticket systems crashed in cities like San Diego and Fargo. Some shows could not be saved. Fans stayed loyal for a long time, but patience slowly wore thin. Then everything changed in September 2024. On September 13, Garth filed a lawsuit in Mississippi using fake names, John Doe and Jane Doe. He claimed someone was trying to extort $5 million from him. But the move quickly backfired. On October 3, the woman filed a 27-page counter-lawsuit in Los Angeles. She accused Garth of sexual assault. She claimed he forced her to touch him, that he came out of showers naked and exposed himself to her, and that during a private jet trip in 2019, he booked a single hotel suite for the two of them. The most shocking moment came on October 8, when Garth dropped the fake names and publicly identified her in court documents, including filing her real photos. Her lawyer called the move malicious and said it was meant to shame and intimidate her. Just days earlier, she had gone public on her own terms. Now she was pushed even deeper into the spotlight. The fallout was immediate. Jimmy Kimmel Live canceled a planned outdoor concert. A major Irish television special removed Friends and Low Places from its lineup, saying it was done out of caution. Behind the scenes, networks and producers began pulling away quietly. Nobody wanted to be connected to scandal. On December 11, 2024, Judge Michael Fitzgerald denied Garth's request to dismiss the California lawsuit. That decision meant the case would continue. Garth had tried to move both lawsuits to federal court in Mississippi, believing a more conservative jury might favor him, but the judge refused. A scheduled December 17 court date was canceled, but the lawsuit itself remained active. Legal experts said his only possible advantage was that federal juries require unanimous decisions. Still, by that point, the damage to his image and legacy had already been done.